Hi and welcome to another video. I'm Dave, and today I'm going to take you through a tutorial on how to generate an array from a data table. And this is a useful trick to use on when you're doing Appward programming. If you want to take the results of a data table query, put it into an array, and then manipulate that array in a form of either adding columns or changing values, or even just kind of searching through an array in your code. So let's get started. So here's my workspace. I'm going to bring up and open just a sample app. I'm going to go to my development tray here, or my development object, bunch of apps here. I'm going to copy a new app, and I'm going to launch that guy using the enter method. And sure enough, there it is. So obviously that's a baseline app. There's nothing there to it. It just loads up specific objects. I'm going to go into screen design real quick. And I'm going to add a table just so we can see something. So I'm going to add a table object. It'll come through with two columns in it. Okay, and I can just stretch it here. Okay, so that's a table. I'm going to show some information in that table. You'll see I have column 0, column 1. I'm going to add a couple more columns. Okay, and I'm going to add a data table here because I'm going to look at the contacts table. So let's add a data table. And I'm going to query that, select star from contacts. And this is opening up the standard, actually I'm not going to grab star. I'm going to grab, let's grab specific columns here. So I'm going to grab contact ID, which is the primary key, first name, last name, from contacts, okay? So that's basically 3 columns. So I've got 4 here that'll fit. And I'm going to come down, and the first thing I'm going to do is discover. That'll populate children objects here, because I might want to bind to those later. And that data table, I'm going to call it that contacts view. And I'm going to in my main. So basically that's there. I want to bind the table to that. So in the contacts table, there's a data table ref property. We want to bind that to this table. So we go to the source. We come back to our parent, which is the screen. Go backwards, then dot, then dat contacts view / data table ref. Okay, that binds that table. And normally we would also want to define what the bound column is. It says column 0. Now we don't really have to name these columns to the same column that's in the list, because the data table is configured to basically use the first row of the source as the names. It says include names here, include column names. So this is set to true. So it's going to assume the very first row, which is row 0, is going to be the names, and it'll position it properly. So what we want to do in this app, let's get out of this. Nothing's populating because we're not opening the table yet. And within my app, the pop screen loads the initialize. So we're going to come down to the initialization function, and we're going to add. We're going to open. Or actually, let's not do it there. I think it calls a show here, func show. Let's go to that function, and I'm going to enter some code here. I'm going to say screen.dat contacts view. I'm going to set the query again here just in case someone deletes it. Select contact ID, first name, last name, from contacts. Okay. And what do we order by first name? Okay, comma last name. So we can. So that's it. That's the query, and then we're going to say screen.dat contacts view / open. That opens the table and delivers information to the data table reference. And then we want to update the table. So we're going to say screen.dat or screen.table, TBL table, and then use the get batch to get information from that query. So what that should result in, when we open this, we should see a let's close that, go to screen design, open it again. There you go. So we just brought in a bunch of tables. All the contacts from that table are going directly from the data table object now to the table. Okay, so we're binding to a live table now, so that table is open. If I were to close that table, this would go away, and it's not going to be persistent data. Okay, well, what if I want to load this up, transfer to an array, and then manipulate the array and show it in the table? So that's what this video is about. So why don't we do that? So let's go in and change a few things. Okay, first of all, I'm going to add an array variable. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to call it a certain type of variable. We've got different variables. We're going to add an array variable. That way we can poke our head into it. It's got a little var here. I'm going to call that variable array, or I'll just call it var contacts, because we're going to store an array in there. Okay, and then in the data object, there's a property called toArray, and what that will do is that'll automatically generate an array when you open the table, and it'll transfer it to the array property of the data table object. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go back to our show method. Okay, and we can come in here, and once we do an open here, because again we set, and now we can set it again if we want. We can say .contactsView back to array equals true. But right when we open it here, we're going to have a screen that this array is going to be an actual array. So what we can do right here is pass that array into the value of the variable. So here's where I'm taking this and transferring it into a variable. And I can do that and then immediately close the data table. Okay, now the data table will be closed, but I'm going to have a persistent array that stored that last list of things, and then I can get the batch from the table, but I have to change the source of the table now. Oops, what do we have here? We have a little bit of a bug. Dat table, where did that? That says line 13. It's a problem with that. What was that a problem with? Let's see. Oh, screen dat table. Yeah. Okay. Compiled successfully. Come on out of this guy. The only other thing I need to do then is go back into my screen and make sure that the table is now bound to the array. So instead of being bound to my parent.dat contacts, I'm going to come back and bind it to the array var contacts \value. Okay, and that should all work. Now it's basically binding this now to this value, which will be entered when we open the thing. Come back out. What do we see? Boom! It works. Now, why is that useful? Well, now let's add a column called awesome, or how awesome, and we could mark it as yes or no. So let's go ahead and use this third column. We're going to have it as awesome. Okay, and I'm going to go to my data table and I'm going to make that actually fourth column, because we have contact ID, first name, last name. Awesome is going to be here. I'm going to give that one editing, allow edit. So I want to be able to type something in there. Okay, and so now I'm going to come back to my show function, and we're going to add a column to that array. And we have a lot of interesting link is the language, but we have a lot of interesting things here. So now that I've transferred it to this variable, I'm gonna first transfer it to a local variable so I can play around with that. So I'm gonna define this array as a local variable. All I have to do is just put parentheses, and now it's a local variable. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to the local variable as well, so that I can play around with the local variable. Okay, so I'm going to actually let's go ahead and change this line to be this array. Okay, and then at the end here, I'm going to transfer from the screen context value equal to this array. So I'm going to manipulate my array. Okay. So of course the array comes in as an array of arrays, and there's a lot of videos on that. It's basically not a full two-dimensional array, but it's an array. It's a single-dimensional array with a bunch of single-dimensional arrays in each row, representing each row of the data. And so row 0 are the titles, which is basically, it'll say contact, first name, last name. So what I want to do is I want to take that array and at position, let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to insert. So I'm going to use a command table so I'm going to say this array equals table insert column, and I'm going to take this array and insert column 4, okay, or 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to insert it at the end, okay. Now end, actually I can put -1 and that'll do it at the end. It's designed to do that, or I can use it as 4, the 4th column, since we're starting with 3 columns. That'll insert that, and then I can say this array and just define the 0 row, which is the top row, and the 4th entry, and make that equal to awesomeness. Okay, awesomeness score, right? We're gonna have it. So I've added a column, and then in the very first row of that column, because the very first row is 0, and then the 4th column is here. I'm going to define, I'm going to put awesomeness and then transfer that array back to the contacts. And what we should see now is even though it's pulling from data, I can insert some additional stuff in there. So let's go to screen design and come right back out and see if it brings in awesomeness. And sure, oh, it didn't. What it did is it said null. So let's figure out why that happened. So let's see, contact 0. We definitely added another row or another column. So let's figure out what we did wrong here. Okay, so why was it doing it? Well, of course, this is 0, 1, 2. The next one is 3. So let's go ahead and put 3 here, and that's probably what's causing this. I was setting an insert past the point of the current array. So we're going to insert at row 3. We're going to put awesomeness. That should work. Let's make sure it works. And we want to come back out of here. And again, close this guy, and it should say awesomeness. And sure, it sure does. And I should be able to come in and edit this. One thing. I'm in row mode here. You can see here it says selection type is row. I need to go to cell if I want to edit things in my table. Okay, and now here I am, and I can say, yes, Abdul is awesome, and yes, Alex is awesome. Okay, and Annabelle, of course, is super awesome. Super yes on that one. Okay, so that's it. So what we did is we grabbed a bunch of information from a table, created it into an array, added a column. And this is useful in, there's a lot of apps where you'll want to grab some information from the table, but then represent other information that might be calculated just with scripting, and add those as kind of separate columns. You can also add separate rows to that data. So hopefully this video was useful to you. Thanks again for visiting and listening. We really appreciate it. And as always, visit our website, appward.com, or our YouTube channel for lots of videos on development. And as we always say, code well, and have a great day. Okay, thanks. Bye.